going to go from verses 8 to 15. Then David went out of the cave and called out to Saul, "My lord the king!" When Saul looked behind him, David bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. He said to Saul, "Why do you listen when men say, 'David is bent on harming you'? This day you have seen with your own eyes how the Lord delivered you into my hands in the cave. Some urged me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, 'I will not lay my hand on my Lord, because he is the Lord's anointed.' See, my father, look at this piece of your robe in my hand. I cut off the corner of your robe, but did not kill you. See that there is nothing in my hand to indicate that I am guilty of wrongdoing or rebellion. I have not wronged you, but you are hunting me down to take my life. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge the wrongs you have done to me. But my hand will not touch you. As the old saying goes, from evildoers come evil deeds, so my hand will not touch you. Against whom has the king of Israel come out? Who are you pursuing? A dead dog? A flea? May the Lord be our judge and decide between us. May he consider my cause and uphold it. May he vindicate me by delivering me from your hand." David asking Saul, "Why are you giving ear?" David wondered, why would Saul give ear to the rumors that David wanted to harm the king? And of course, this evidence proved beyond a doubt that David only harbored the noblest intentions towards the king of Israel, King Saul. And I have one more comment to read. So David had a very different way to see things. A king is pursuing a dead dog. A king is pursuing a single flea. That meant that David did not mean any harm to the king.
And that David didn't pose a threat.
Exactly. Why did David bow down to the king?
He was submitting himself to the will of the king.
Exactly.
He still respected him a lot.
Exactly. Beyond respect, he was submitting to his king. That's correct. Now, we see that David refused to kill Saul, but it was not because he was a coward. In no way should we interpret it in that way. But we see this. To whom did David appeal to settle this dispute?
He said, "May the Lord judge between us." So
exactly.
God, yeah.
Yeah, he went to God. Now, let's consider what we call conventional wisdom. We don't know how many of his friends in the cave were telling David to kill the king. We know that David had a few hundred men with him, so a lot of people telling him with one voice, "Come on, let's do it. This is your opportunity. This is your chance. God is giving you this opportunity." But David did not listen to them. You know, when people are doing something and you think, well, everybody else is doing it, why not me too? Does that mean that because the majority is doing it, that it is the right thing to do? No. Definitely not. For us, people of God, we should be very careful about what we call conventional wisdom. We have to be very careful about following the crowds, because that may not mean that that's the will of God for you. So David instead chose to reconcile with someone that considered him an enemy. And in this situation, we know that David knew King Saul very well. He had served him in the court for we don't know for how many years, and he went to battles with King Saul, so he knew him very well. And I'm not trying to offend or insult anybody, but we know by what the Bible tells us about King Saul, he had some serious mental issues that were untreated. And still, David sought reconciliation with the King Saul. Why? Because David trusted God. And we have to remember once again that God had anointed David to be the next king. And David chose to wait for God to make him king and not take the throne by his own hands by shedding the blood of King Saul. Now, why was I talking about David knowing who he was dealing with? Is because sometimes we may seek reconciliation with a person, and we may have our best intentions to have that relationship work, but the other person will still hurt us and mistreat us. They have not truly repented. They may have felt sorry. They may have made a confession, but they never really showed any intentions of stopping with that negative attitude of hurting us or mistreating us or causing us all kinds of harm. So in this situation, we still have to seek reconciliation, and as we're going to see in a few moments, we reconcile, but we're still going our separate ways.